Thank you, Mr. Chair. Admiral, Democrats in Congress have refused to fund the Department of Homeland Security, including the Coast Guard. How is this impacting morale among Coast Guard members and their families?
Sir, thank you for the question. I would say that when you look at readiness, one of the things we like to talk about is uncertainty is the biggest degrader of readiness. For our men and women, not knowing whether we're going to get paid or not is a severe degrader of that readiness. We know that many of them are out there trying to figure out if they're going to be able to pay rent this week or they're going to be able to buy groceries. We've been able to find a couple ways to keep them funded, but that is not guaranteed payback check to paycheck. And then our civilian people are not getting paid at all, and we know that especially with common GS series within Coast Guard, within the DC area, they're probably going to start hopping to other agencies that are getting paid.
Thank you. Can you provide some information on drug interdiction operations of the Coast Guard over the past year?
Yes, sir. So past year was a record year for us. I'm just looking at my thing. We interdicted 547,000 pounds. And I think that's of cocaine, and I think that's an interesting number. But if you start to put that into kind of what that means, that was $3.9 billion of drugs we kept out of our U.S. economy. And more importantly, that was 206 million lethal doses that did not enter our streets.
That is incredible. That is American lives saved because of the Coast Guard's operations protecting our waterways, our borders. You know, important operations like these are placed in jeopardy when government funding for Homeland Security is held up. And Democrats in Congress are actually holding our law enforcement hostage by not passing this important funding legislation. Shifting gears a little bit to my home state of Alaska, does the Coast Guard currently have the shoreside infrastructure necessary to support sustained Arctic operations today, or are there capability gaps that you feel still need to be addressed?
Sir, thank you for that question. We need to be closer in Alaska to be able to get to the Arctic, especially as we look at buying Arctic security cutters. And we're looking to announce some of that movement soon, but we do not have the infrastructure in there. We are going to need additional investments. We brought on the Coast Guard Storrs this summer. Our plans are to put her in Juneau, but we are embarking on a $300 million investment there to get her in the next 2 to 3 years.
And we are very excited about that investment. As I've said before, it's important that the icebreakers be located near the ice, and certainly that is in Alaska. What benchmarks or performance metrics is the service using to measure progress in reducing infrastructure backlog, and how will Congress be kept informed of that progress?
So, sir, thank you for that question. I think when you start looking at our shoreside infrastructure, we have an incredible backlog of that. We know that it's at least $707 million plus another almost $8 billion, as we talked about before in the GAO estimate for our backlog. There's a lot of things that we need to do for our shoreside. We've certainly been focused on those assets that can get after the missions that the American public think, but every one of those starts and ends at a shore facility that needs some help.
Absolutely, and as was mentioned previously, the budget reconciliation bill of last year provides shoreside infrastructure support. We recognize that housing, childcare are also important components of the entire package for families and those serving in our Coast Guard, and we are working to make sure that those assets are made available in regions where the Coast Guard is operating or where they may operate in the future. We certainly appreciate the service of our men and women in the United States Coast Guard. We're doing everything we can to make sure that Department of Homeland Security is fully funded, and we look forward to welcoming our Coast Guard members and families to Alaska as we execute on this next phase of the Coast Guard's mission. Thank you, Admiral, for your testimony today, and I yield back.